So I'm on a video rule tonight. I thought carefully before making this one because it's I feel that some of the people I might be talking about are hackers, and certainly don't want them to fuck around with my system. But at the same time, I believe that any movement needs to face some scrutiny, and what I want to talk about is Anonymous, right? This is this sort of abstract group, so to speak, that identifies itself with the mask from the film V for Vendetta. Has become a worldwide phenomenon, but especially in Western countries where these people wear these masks for ostensibly anarchist sort of protests. At least that's how it comes across to me. I want to just share a few of my thoughts on Anonymous. Firstly, some of the issues that are raised by people calling themselves anonymous are very valid issues to do with government spying on people, like the NSA scandal and so on. There's a lot of very legitimate concerns that are being raised, and they're being raised by people who identify themselves as anonymous. But I do feel uncomfortable about Anonymous, and I want to explain why. Firstly, for all their preaching about the tyranny of government, I've noticed that they're extremely intolerant of anyone who questions them, and they automatically will call you a government stooge or an idiot, or they basically are very intolerant of dissent. That's one thing I've noticed. Number two is an obvious one. They have no leader, so they'll say themselves it's not an organisation. You are anonymous if you want to be. But what the hell does that even mean? I mean, this organisation has been around. There I go again. It's not an organisation. This term, this body of people, has been around for quite a while now, and I am yet to see what their actual objective is. And that is precisely part of the problem. If you have a very abstract idea, concept, then it is going to be subject to all sorts of nutters saying that they are part of it for any agenda. Anyone can say they're anonymous and then promote their own agenda. I'm not anonymous because I'm not bothering wearing that silly mask, and I believe there is a place for whistleblowers and talking about the NSA and all the rest of it. So, you know, hats off for all of that sort of stuff. But people out there who are genuinely part of Anonymous need to address the problem and the flaws within. Notably that anyone can simply call themselves that. I've always seen it as an anarchist concept, but I don't even know if that's the purpose. That's just the problem. It is so abstract that it almost becomes meaningless. I mean, I heard people earlier on whinging about the fact that it wasn't being covered. There was a big anonymous protest supposedly, but that is just the problem. There is no specific stated goal of Anonymous. Very often they'll make these videos that are directed at certain governments, but because it's leaderless and because no one would ever publicly identify themselves as an anonymous personnel, then it becomes almost like, well, what exactly is their agenda? And I do have some concerns about it. I mean, they take issue with the NSA spying on the public. That's an entirely legitimate concern, and it's something we should be concerned about. But how do we know that Anonymous itself isn't something to be concerned about? The fact that we know so little about it, the fact that it is so abstract, for all I know, there could be any sort of dangerous psychopaths calling themselves anonymous. There could be actual terrorist organisations that hide behind the anonymous banner, or there could be anyone. This is the problem, it is an abstract term. I mean, simply for making this video, I could be targeted in exactly the same sort of moral equivalency as the FBI or the CIA. That is the problem with Anonymous. They don't tolerate anyone questioning them, so they behave just like a dictatorship in that sense. I mean, what's the difference? So, I've never had... It's not that I disagree with some of the ideas that they've brought about, it's more the fact that they are so obscure and there's so little known about them, and the fact that there is absolutely no organisation whatsoever. So to me that means they have no legitimacy. How can they claim to have legitimacy when they have no structure whatsoever, when they have no leader, when they have no single stated agenda, except for anarchist rants against governments? There doesn't seem to be any sort of goal. And it's a pity, because I do think that it is important to have whistleblowers, it is important to have dissent, to expose corruption, to expose invasion of privacy and so on. But Anonymous itself, in my opinion, is guilty of doing the very things it accuses governments of doing, which is violating people's privacy, which is not tolerating dissent. I mean, they say they're taking on dictatorship, but their very nature, they behave like a dictatorship. So forgive me if I'm not inspired by Anonymous, and even making this video just proves my point, because no doubt I'm going to block the comments as a precaution, but well, I might not actually. I might leave it open just to see who is going to prove my point, because actually when you think about it, Anonymous is... what really do we know about this organisation? How do we know that anyone calling themselves Anonymous is a credible sort of person? For all we know, that could just be anyone who takes issue with the government or any government. So I really have difficulty seeing much legitimacy in Anonymous.